Imagine being told that your life, as you know it, is over, that you will never walk again. The doctors say it, your family hears it, and you feel it deep in your bones. It's a diagnosis that strikes fear into the heart, a sentence that seems impossible to escape. This was the reality for one woman who, after a devastating accident, faced a future bound to a wheelchair with little hope for recovery. But what happened next is something truly remarkable. It's a story of perseverance, grit, and a decision that changed everything. This is the story of how one woman, told she would never walk again, defied all odds, rediscovered her strength, and transformed her life. Stay with us as we take you on this incredible journey, because what you're about to hear will inspire you beyond words. It all began on an ordinary day, just like any other. She was living a busy, active life, working hard, spending time with friends and family, and pursuing her passions. But in an instant, everything changed. One moment she was out enjoying her day, and the next, she found herself caught in a devastating accident. Whether it was a car crash, a fall, or an unexpected injury, the result was the same. Her life was turned upside down. The pain was immediate and unbearable, but it wasn't just physical. There was a sense of complete helplessness, as if everything she had worked for and dreamed of had been shattered in that one fateful moment. Her family rushed to her side, hoping for answers, but the doctors weren't optimistic. After a series of tests and scans, the diagnosis was clear and devastating. A severe spinal injury that left her with little to no mobility. The doctors told her bluntly she would never walk again. The words hit like a freight train, leaving her in shock. The dream of walking, of running, of dancing, everything she had taken for granted was suddenly taken from her. She was left in a hospital room, her body broken, her spirit heavy with disbelief. The reality of her condition began to sink in, and the weight of the diagnosis grew heavier by the day. As the days passed, she felt like a prisoner in her own body, trapped in a wheelchair with no clear way out. Her family tried to stay strong, but even they couldn't hide their sorrow. It was a heartbreaking sight, seeing someone who had always been so full of life, now facing a future that seemed impossibly bleak. Yet in the silence of her hospital room, a small voice inside her whispered, "This isn't the end." The doctors had their prognosis, but she wasn't ready to accept it. She knew the road ahead would be long, uncertain, and full of challenges, but the idea of surrendering to her fate wasn't something she could do, not yet at least. And so, while her world felt like it was falling apart, there was a spark of defiance that began to glow deep within her. The journey ahead was uncertain, but it was one she was determined to take. The days following the diagnosis were filled with an overwhelming mix of emotions. At first, she was consumed by disbelief. How could this have happened to her? Why had her life been turned upside down so suddenly? The weight of the accident settled on her like a heavy cloud, and in those early days, the struggle wasn't just physical, it was mental and emotional. The initial stages of recovery were grueling. Each movement, each attempt to adjust her position in bed or sit up, sent waves of pain through her body. The physical therapist came in, offering encouragement, but it all seemed so far away, walking again, moving with ease, everything she had once taken for granted. It felt impossible. During this time, frustration began to mount. She couldn't escape the constant feeling of being trapped in a body that no longer functioned the way it used to. Simple tasks became monumental challenges. Getting dressed, eating, even going to the bathroom required assistance. Every day felt like a battle. She felt angry, sad, and sometimes completely defeated. Her independence, her very identity, was gone. But as the days stretched into weeks, something within her began to shift. The struggle didn't ease, but she started to look at things differently. She was faced with a choice: continue to dwell in anger, resentment, and self-pity, or accept the reality of her situation and figure out how to move forward. It wasn't an easy decision, and the path to acceptance was far from smooth. She spent long hours thinking, questioning, and wrestling with herself. Could she accept this new life, or would she forever be consumed by the what-ifs? The turning point came when she realized that acceptance didn't mean giving up. It meant finding a way to live in a way that was different, yet still meaningful. She didn't have to deny her pain or pretend everything was fine, but she could choose to move forward with a new perspective. Acceptance didn't mean that the struggle would disappear. It still lingered every day. But it meant she no longer had to fight against her circumstances. She began to take small steps, learning to use a wheelchair, adjusting to her new way of life, and leaning on her support system of family, friends, and doctors. It was hard. It was painful. But little by little, the idea of taking control of her future, despite the odds, began to feel like a possibility. As the months passed, she began to embrace the idea that while life had changed, it wasn't over. Her mind began to shift from a place of defeat to one of hope. This journey wasn't going to be easy, but the struggle was now something she could face head-on. And in that acceptance, a quiet strength began to rise within her. She wasn't defined by her injury. She was defined by how she responded to it. And that, she realized, was where her power lay. With acceptance came the understanding that her life, though irrevocably changed, was still her own. It was a bittersweet realization, but it also sparked something deep within her, a determination to fight, not just for survival, but for a future filled with hope. The journey to recovery wouldn't be simple or quick, but it was one she was ready to take, one step at a time. The first part of her journey was finding the courage to set goals. Goals that were no longer about returning to the life she had before, but about creating a new one. At first, the goals seemed modest. To be able to get out of bed independently, to sit up on her own without assistance, to strengthen her muscles so that she could perform daily tasks. Each goal felt small in comparison to the larger picture of being able to walk again, but she quickly learned that recovery was built on these small, achievable milestones. She worked tirelessly with her physical therapist, pushing her body past its limits, often battling fatigue and pain. Every session was a reminder of how far she had to go, but it was also a testament to her resilience. There were days when she wanted to give up, days when the pain was too much and the progress felt too slow. But she kept going, because with each small victory, whether it was sitting up longer, transferring to a chair with less help, or moving her legs just a bit more, she felt a renewed sense of hope. The mental aspect of her recovery was just as important as the physical. She had to learn to quiet the doubts and fears that crowded her mind. There were moments when the thought of never walking again haunted her. Moments when she wondered if it was all worth it. But she soon realized that the real battle was within herself. The journey wasn't just about regaining mobility. It was about regaining control over her mind, her spirit, and her future. And to do that, she had to shift her mindset completely. One of the most powerful decisions she made early in her recovery was to stop focusing on what she couldn't do and start focusing on what she could do. This simple but profound shift helped her reframe her situation. She began to celebrate small wins, like building her strength enough to hold a cup of water without spilling it, or learning how to maneuver her wheelchair with more confidence. These weren't the big dramatic moments of transformation she had hoped for, but they were still moments of victory, moments that proved she was moving forward. She also leaned heavily on her support system. Family, friends, and the medical team that had been with her from the beginning all became integral parts of her recovery. They celebrated with her after every breakthrough, and were there to comfort her during the tougher days. They reminded her that she wasn't alone in this journey. As the weeks and months went by, her physical and emotional strength grew. With every session, she felt her muscles waking up again, becoming stronger. The first time she stood up with the help of a support frame, she was overwhelmed by the sensation. It wasn't walking, not yet, but it was progress. It was a reminder that every step forward, no matter how small, was a step in the right direction. Her journey was far from over, but she could see the road ahead. It was long and winding, and it wasn't going to be easy, but she knew she had the strength to keep going. And for the first time in months, she felt the spark of hope burning brighter. She wasn't just a survivor, she was a warrior, and the journey was only just beginning. As the months passed, her journey of recovery began to take shape, and slowly, the small victories she had celebrated started to build into something much bigger. At first, it was difficult to see the progress. There were days when the road ahead seemed endless, and her body felt exhausted from the constant work. But little by little, she noticed changes, subtle at first, but undeniable as time went on. The moments of breakthrough were few and far between, but when they came, they were nothing short of miraculous. One of the first significant breakthroughs was when she was able to transfer herself from the bed to a wheelchair without assistance. It wasn't easy. Her muscles were weak, her body still recovering from the trauma, but with every attempt, she got a little better. The first time she did it successfully, without the help of anyone else, was a moment of pure triumph. It wasn't just about the physical act of transferring. It was a reminder that she was reclaiming her independence, piece by piece. Her physical therapist played a crucial role in her progress, pushing her beyond what she thought she was capable of. Every session became a challenge to go just a little further, to stretch her limits in a way she hadn't thought possible. There were moments of discomfort and frustration, but each time she took a step forward, it was proof that the effort was paying off. One particularly pivotal moment came when she was able to move her legs, just slightly, but it was a breakthrough that doctors and therapists hadn't expected so soon. For months, she had felt as though her legs were completely disconnected from her body. But now, she could feel the muscles twitching, responding in ways that gave her hope. It wasn't walking, but it was a sign that the body's memory was coming back, that recovery was possible. Her therapists and doctors were equally amazed at the speed of her recovery. It was a testament to her determination and the hard work she had put in. They began to challenge her with more complex exercises. She started standing with assistance for longer periods of time, and though it was still far from walking, standing upright again felt like a victory. It was as if each small milestone was a victory over the fear and uncertainty that had once clouded her thoughts. But the true breakthrough came when she took her first steps with the help of a walker. It wasn't graceful, and it certainly wasn't a long walk, but it was a walk. She had been told by doctors early on that walking again might never be possible for her. But now, here she was, standing and moving one step at a time, proving that even the most impossible of dreams could sometimes be within reach. Each step she took was an overwhelming reminder of her strength, the strength to endure, to fight, and to never give up. The emotional breakthroughs were just as significant as the physical ones. There were days when she struggled with self-doubt, when the progress seemed so slow that it felt like she wasn't getting anywhere at all. But over time, she began to see things differently. She stopped looking at the journey as a series of obstacles to overcome and started viewing it as a path leading toward a new version of herself. The woman who had once been paralyzed by fear, doubt, and the belief that she would never walk again was transforming into someone with a renewed sense of self. She realized that the true breakthrough was in her mindset. She was no longer focusing on what she couldn't do, but instead celebrating what she could do. As she continued to make strides in her recovery, those around her began to notice the shift as well. Her family, her friends, and even her medical team were inspired by the way she approached each challenge. Where others saw obstacles, she saw opportunities to grow. Where many would have given up, she kept moving forward, one small victory after another. Looking back, she realized that it wasn't just about walking again. The real breakthrough had been her ability to redefine what recovery meant. It was no longer just about regaining what had been lost. It was about becoming stronger than she had ever been before, both physically and emotionally. Every breakthrough, no matter how small, reminded her that she was capable of far more than she had ever imagined. And as the days passed, she began to understand that true transformation isn't just about the destination. It's about the journey and the person you become along the way. After months of relentless effort, determination, and an unyielding spirit, the day finally arrived. A day that would mark the culmination of her struggle. A day that would redefine everything she had come to believe about herself. The moment of triumph was not only the physical achievement of walking again, but a testament to her resilience, strength, and the incredible willpower she had nurtured throughout the journey. It had been a long road, filled with small victories and setbacks. There were days when the path forward felt impossible, where the pain was overwhelming and the doubt crept in, whispering that she would never be the same again. But through every challenge, she kept fighting. Her body, though weak at times, responded to her perseverance, and her spirit never wavered. That morning, as she prepared for her session with her physical therapist, she felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. There was an energy in the air, an unspoken understanding that today could be the day she would take that first true step. As she stood in front of the parallel bars, her therapist by her side, she could feel her heart beating faster. It wasn't just the physical act of walking that had her heart racing. It was the realization that this moment had been years in the making, and it was finally here. Her therapist gave her a reassuring smile, knowing that she had worked so hard to get to this point. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice calm yet filled with anticipation. She nodded, her hands gripping the bars tightly as she steadied herself. There was a moment of silence, just a beat, but in that brief pause, everything she had endured flashed through her mind. The accident, the diagnosis, the struggle to accept her new reality, and the countless hours of therapy and rehabilitation. She remembered the moments of despair and the feelings of hopelessness that tried to take root in her heart. But now, standing there, she knew this was the moment that would show the world and herself what she was truly made of. With her therapist's guidance, she took her first step. It wasn't easy, her legs were shaky, her muscles still weak, but as her foot lifted from the ground and landed in front of her, the room seemed to pause. She had done it. She had taken that first step, and it wasn't just a physical movement, it was a victory over every single obstacle she had encountered on her journey. Her eyes welled with tears as the realization set in. It wasn't perfect. She wasn't walking with ease, and her steps were unsteady, but she was walking. Her therapist stood beside her, encouraging her with each hesitant step. "That's it," he said. "You've got this." Her family and friends, who had been there from the beginning, that watched from the sidelines, their faces full of pride and awe. They had seen the pain, the sacrifice, the moments when she wasn't sure if she could continue. And now they were witnessing the incredible transformation that had taken place before their very eyes. With every step, the tears flowed more freely, tears of relief, tears of joy, and tears of sheer accomplishment. She wasn't just walking again, she was reclaiming her life, her independence, and her strength. In those few moments, the weight of everything she had been through melted away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of pride and triumph. As she reached the end of the parallel bars, she took a deep breath, feeling the air fill her lungs as if she were breathing for the first time. And then, with a steadying hand on the therapist's arm, she took another step, this time without the bars, standing tall on her own. The room erupted in applause. Her family, her therapist, and even the nurses and doctors who had been part of her journey cheered in disbelief. They knew how much it had taken for her to reach this point, and they had witnessed firsthand the courage and resilience it took to overcome every obstacle. It wasn't just a physical victory, it was a symbol of her transformation, a reminder that no matter how hard the road, how impossible the dream may seem, with enough determination, anything is possible. She had been told she would never walk again, that her life would never be the same. But here she was, standing tall, walking once more, and proving to herself and everyone around her that the human spirit is capable of extraordinary things. In that moment, she realized that the true triumph wasn't just in the physical act of walking again. It was in the journey itself, the strength she had discovered within herself, and the knowledge that even the greatest obstacles can be overcome when we refuse to give up. And as she took those steps, she knew her story wasn't just about walking again. It was about resilience, about rising above, and about the limitless potential of the human spirit. The moment of triumph was a new beginning, one that would continue to inspire not just her, but everyone who heard her story. The transformation that followed that moment of triumph was far beyond what anyone could have imagined. It wasn't just physical. It was a complete metamorphosis that touched every aspect of her life. The woman who had once been told that she would never walk again became an embodiment of resilience, hope, and the power of the human spirit. The initial breakthrough was just the beginning. With each step she took, her confidence grew. What was once a monumental challenge, simply standing or taking a few steps, slowly became second nature. The pain and fatigue that once weighed her down became less intimidating. She could feel her muscles gaining strength, her balance becoming steadier, and with that came a renewed sense of independence. The daily grind of therapy no longer felt like a struggle. It was now a part of her routine that she embraced, because she knew it was leading her toward even greater things. But this transformation wasn't just physical. Mentally and emotionally, she was evolving in ways that went deeper than anyone could see. When she first heard the doctor's prognosis, she felt her world shatter. The thought of never walking again, of being confined to a wheelchair, seemed unbearable. There were days when despair crept in, and the path forward seemed insurmountable. But over time, her perspective began to shift. She realized that the true strength didn't come from her body, but from her mind, her determination, and her refusal to accept defeat. The more she pushed herself, the more she learned about her inner strength. It was as if the very act of fighting for her physical recovery ignited a deep transformation within her soul. She became stronger, not just in her legs, but in her heart and mind. Her outlook on life changed. She became more grateful for the little things she had once taken for granted. Walking, standing, even just moving her body with ease became a source of immense joy. She began to appreciate her body, not for what it had lost, but for what it had gained through perseverance and hard work. This mental transformation spilled over into every area of her life. The woman who had once felt limited by her circumstances began to embrace new opportunities. She was no longer defined by her disability or the fear of what might happen next. She had taken control of her life, and that empowerment was contagious. It sparked a shift in her relationships, too. Those who had been by her side during the darkest days now saw a woman who was thriving, who was defying expectations. She wasn't just recovering, she was flourishing in ways that amazed everyone around her. Her transformation also sparked a deeper sense of purpose. She started to get involved in motivational speaking, sharing her journey with others who were facing their own battles. She became an inspiration to many who were struggling with their own physical, emotional, or mental challenges. Her story was proof that no matter how dire the circumstances, there was always hope, always a way to rise above. She wanted others to know that they, too, could overcome their struggles, just as she had. In addition, she turned her focus to health and wellness in a new way. Her journey of recovery had not just been about walking again, but about overall well-being. She began to take better care of herself, learning more about nutrition, exercise, and mindfulness. Her transformation was not just about walking again, it was about building a life that was physically, mentally, and emotionally balanced. And it wasn't just about her. As her transformation took root, it influenced those around her. Her family, her friends, and even her community were all inspired by her unyielding spirit. They saw how her transformation was affecting not only her own life, but the lives of others as well. Her triumph became their triumph, and that ripple effect of positivity, hope, and strength continued to grow, touching more lives every day. As she looked back at her journey, she marveled at how far she had come. The woman who had once been told she'd never walk again was now not only walking, but thriving. The transformation was complete, not just in her ability to walk, but in the way she viewed herself and the world around her. She had become a living testament to the power of human resilience, and her story would continue to inspire others for years to come. Her transformation wasn't just a personal victory, it was a beacon of hope for anyone facing adversity. A reminder that within each of us lies the strength to overcome, to transform, and to thrive. The journey we've just witnessed is a powerful reminder of the resilience that lies within each of us. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when life presents us with challenges that seem impossible to overcome. But this woman's story shows us that no matter how insurmountable the obstacles may seem, there's always a way forward. It all starts with one crucial choice: to believe in ourselves, to keep going, and to refuse to let our circumstances define us. Her story is not just about recovering from physical injury. It's about the power of mindset, determination, and perseverance. It's about understanding that setbacks are a part of life, but they don't have to be the end of our story. In fact, they can often become the very catalyst for change and growth. No matter what you're facing in your own life, this story should remind you that your circumstances do not define your potential. The decisions you make today about how you respond to challenges and adversity are what shape your future. Keep pushing forward, one step at a time, because with determination, hard work, and belief in yourself, you too can transform your life. So whether you're facing a personal struggle, a health battle, or just feeling stuck, take inspiration from this woman's journey. Know that no matter how difficult the road may seem, the power to change your life is always within your reach. And remember, your greatest transformation often begins with a single decision: to never give up.